Hello, everyone, and welcome into another episode of the Fourth and Goal podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Drew, along here with Rob. If you can hear my voice, it's pretty hoarse after two straight primetime bangers that we will be getting into. Streaming them live, my voice is all but gone, but we're still going to do this. You know, no pain, no gain out here.
Yeah, definitely not. I'm happy to be back in the United States of America for the first time in a long, long time. I would like to think that'll help me with my betting, but as those of you follow closely, it does not.
Yeah, I mean, betting was a lot easier early in the season when you could kind of beat the average Joe who didn't know who was good or bad by just paying attention. I find as you get later in the season, it just becomes way more difficult.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
But either way, let's move in. We got a lot to talk about today. So let's talk about our news and notes. And as always, we start with injuries. And there is no bigger injury than Joseph Burrow. What are your thoughts there as the Cincinnati Kid?
I know. Well, I'm actually the grandson of the Pittsburgh Kid, the heavyweight champion. Well, he fought the heavyweight champion, Joe Louis, twice. That's Billy Conn, for those of you keeping score at home.
Sick flex,
but I am
sick flex, bro.
Yeah, for sure, dude. That's the family heritage, is losing a title fight. But anyways, I am here in Cincinnati currently, and I will tell you the streets are somber. It is a bummer. Obviously, I'm a little upset because I had so much riding on the Bengals this season. My fantasy teams have Burrow. My MVP pick was Burrow. I have the Bengals winning it all. I had the Bengals beating the Ravens, my arch nemesis. So, you know, the injury and his health and his professional career in life, of course, is more important, but it's not making it any easier personally and also here in the city of Cincinnati. Just a bummer all around. Again, this is now, I think, his second major injury that he's had that's knocked him out for the good chunk of his season. The Bengals, I think, are done unless Jake Browning pulls some sort of Josh Dobbs-esque performances, but I don't think we saw that out of him. Again, that was a tough game against Baltimore on Thursday night with no reps. But just a fucking tragedy, for lack of a better word. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely hurts. The Bengals were definitely a Super Bowl favorite coming into the year, a team that a lot of people are looking to get over the hump. I think we're only a year or two away from talking about Burrow in the same way we talk about Josh Allen. Like, oh, when is he going to win one? And another year of not winning one is another year closer to that becoming the conversation point.
Yeah, I mean, the difference would be, I guess, he's made it to a Super Bowl, and his are like more injury related, where I would think Allen's are, I don't know what happens to him there, and I don't know if that game against the Chiefs has scarred him, but
I mean, yeah,
his team has a lot of injuries, though, the Bills.
Yeah, Allen's been more team injuries, and then like the 1 year where they looked good was the year where he gave them the lead with 13 seconds left. Like, you got to put and he never touched the field again. It's like, if you give your team the lead with 13 seconds left against the Chiefs, you threw 9 touchdowns to 0 picks in 2 playoff games that year. You can't blame him. You can't play better than he did.
No, I agree, but that's the way these things get blamed, right? Like, exactly. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Now the question is Josh Allen a postseason performer, right? And that's not fair, but hey, neither's life.
Not, and I think we're going to get to similar things about Joe Burrow when it's like, oh, is he a guy who can't win the big game? Like, he's a little bit younger. He did make a Super Bowl, but that talk is coming in a few years if he doesn't get anywhere. But moving on from that, a few other injuries. We got Kenneth Walker going down, Cooper Kupp going down, Joey Bosa, Achane again. For those of you who are waiting on him in fantasy, everyone who had him was salivating, and just seeing him going down again is just brutal. And then probably the most significant one is Talanoa Hufanga, ACL out for the season for the 49ers.
And he was a big defensive player for them, heart and soul in that secondary. Just a tragic to see them go. That's another team that was looking at making a run. Hopefully they do have the depth. I'm not sure about the depth at that position. But it's when you just see these kind of injuries. I would like to say, outside of kind of the Burrow, Talanoa, most of these seem to be like like day-to-day injuries, right? So, Donta Foreman, Joey Bosa, these guys all kind of like had injuries. Some of them came back, some of them didn't. So I would like to think that most of the ones.
The hope is that these guys will be back soon.
Exactly. It's like I know, like we've had enough of these like Kirk Cousins, Rodgers, Burrow type, Deshaun Watson things. So I'm happy to hear that some of these injuries won't be quite as devastating.
Yeah, but moving past the injuries, how happy are you, my friend? They finally blamed Canada.
Except now we can't blame Canada. We might actually have to ask ourselves if Kenny Pickett is a good quarterback. I think the Tommy DeVito stat that he already has more multiple touchdown passes was a pretty revealing stat in my book, considering Pickett's been the starter for over a year now, including parts of last season as well. So, I mean, yes, we blamed Canada, but now we got more questions to ask that might be even more like self-reflective, and so, you know what I mean?
I think it's a good thing because this should at least answer the question: was it Matt Canada or was it Kenny Pickett? This will give you a small sample size to be able to say, do we need to start to look to move on from Kenny Pickett because the rest of our team is pretty good, or was Matt Canada truly the problem? So I think it's for the best, and they're not the only team in the past week that fired their offensive coordinator. It happened just after we filmed last week, but the Bills firing Ken Dorsey and their offense looking legit with the interim OC in there.
Yeah, but that being said, they did play the Jets, and that game was awful. That was like, I was watching that game with my grandma, and we both had to we both went to bed early on that one. We called it quits, but hopefully they're able to turn it around. I would like to think that team can be pretty exciting and electric. Again, now with the Bengals weren't really in contention, but you could never count them out. That's just another spot that's opening up there with one of the AFC North teams down. So Ken Dorsey got fired. It's like, hey, you can do something else besides throw the ball to Stephon Diggs. Imagine.
And you can actually use your top running back. Also, Rob, over there, I am reverbing through your system, by the way.
Yeah, I think my headphone just died.
Okay, well, try to fix that. Either way, we'll move on. The next big news. This just happened today. Shaq Leonard, 3-time All-Pro first team, 1-time All-Pro second team on a 5-year, $100 million deal cut by the Indianapolis Colts.
I don't get that one bit. I was trying to read into it as to why, what was the reasoning behind that? Have you been able to figure out what they were thinking there?
Yeah, so obviously 2018 through 2021, this man was one of, if not the best middle linebackers in the league, arguably the best. And 2022, he was injured for most of the season. That's a write-off. And I think Matt Eberflus was the D coordinator all those years. He's with the Bears now. He didn't fit as well in the new system. He wasn't getting played as much. He was trying to come back from injury, and he wasn't happy with his playing time, and they just cut him. But this is a guy that, if he can get back to health and he's in the right scheme, he can be one of the best defensive players in the league again. I think almost every team should be looking at picking him up.
Yeah, I already see him going to a Ravens. I would like him on the Steelers, but I don't think we're gonna pick him up. He's the perfect Steelers kind of guy for that, right?
Front runner right now. If you didn't,
are they according to Vegas?
I don't know Vegas, but a lot of the people writing online, it's Steelers Bills are the
Bills. Yeah, with the Matt Milano injury, they definitely need him. We always are a linebacking force, so I can see him slotting right into the scheme and being a beast out the gate for us. So
you guys just signed 2 linebackers literally in the last day. Blake Martinez, the Pokemon fraud. I don't know how we want to call it. I don't know if you know that story, but for anyone listening who doesn't,
what is that? Quickly, can you give the highlights?
Yeah. So he quit the NFL before the 2022 season, or midway through the 2022 season, because he sold Pokemon cards online, was making money, and he quit to start his own business selling Pokemon cards. Then, in October of this year, it came out that his Pokemon card selling company was basically committing fraud. And so it got like banned from all the resellers, and now he's trying to get back into the NFL.
You can't make this shit up sometimes, I swear. He should hit up Jamal Williams, and I feel like they could have some sort of business together. Get some anime going.
Williams. Figure out your Williamses.
I always get them mixed up. Anyways, and then, that's a weird cut there, but hopefully he ends up somewhere good and can turn that career around. Like I said, we like to see great talents do well. Any other news and notes, or can we start talking about the action from this last week?
No, let's talk about the action, and we're going to start with Thursday Night Football. This is a problem. We had Joe Burrow go down in this game. We had Mark Andrews go down with this game. These are two marquee players in the
we didn't even have Mark Andrews on our injury list.
Yeah, we didn't. Sorry, and we should have, because Mark Andrews is out for the season too, and that's significant. Two marquee players going down in this game. This seems to be the story of Thursday Night Football. You had one of the best matchups you could have ever wanted, Bengals, Ravens, and it was one of the worst watches we've had all year. And
it seems like
go ahead.
Every week it's like a shitty game, or there's an injury of note, and like you even hear Al Michaels like not enjoying it, right? And like he's not one. He's too old now and too established to like lie to the good people of America. So he's just straight out calls it a spade a spade. Now we have a Thursday Night Football game on Friday at 3 p.m. this week.
Yeah, I don't get this. I know Amazon paid $10 billion for 10 years of this. I'm sorry, folks. It ain't going anywhere anytime soon. And I'll acknowledge, as a football fan, I'm still going to watch. I'm still going to stream Thursday Night Football. It's not stopping me. But, like, NFL really has to start thinking about this. And I have to imagine the Players Union is going to start to do a bit of pushback on, like, do we really need this? The issue is money, obviously. It's this money versus health, and that's the eternal question.
And it's like boxing too, MMA. I'm not going to stop watching. In fact, I kind of like it. I don't have anything else much going on a Thursday night, so I enjoy our streams. I wish the content was better and the players stayed on the field, but it's still football and we still watch it. And I think that's what the NFL knows and is going to continue to capitalize on. But I agree. It's shit and it's here to stay. Speaking of shit, he benched Zach Wilson.
He did bench Zach Wilson. That's a great segue. That was needed. This guy had, with the exception of that one game against KC, where we all of a sudden had a glimpse of, hey, maybe Zach Wilson might be turning a corner. It's been absolutely atrocious. And I think this cut, or this benching, more than anything, is just a sign to the team that you're going to hold people accountable, because it's got to be the most demoralizing thing, especially for all those studs on that defense, to go out there game in, game out, and know that if you like allow 2 touchdowns, you're losing.
I can't believe that stat. They scored their first touchdown last game, and it had been something like 19 halves, or I forget the exact stat, but it had been a ridiculous amount of time of possession, games, before they had scored a touchdown, right?
50 drives, I think it was around that.
Was that what the final numbers were? Like 50 drives? That's absolutely insane, right? It's got to be demoralizing. That defense is so solid. Like, even last year, though, White was the best quarterback on the team. It wasn't even Wilson. Well, I always thought they should.
White and Flacco were like serviceable, getting wins, and then like Flacco.
I mean, the only thing Zach Wilson's winning at is the cougar hunting.
Yeah, well, and then Flacco was a free agent. Guess what? He just signed with the Browns practice squad.
Did he?
Yeah,
okay,
he did.
Speaking of the Browns, my UCLA Bruin rookie, DTR, took it to the Steelers, won a game, was a little emotional after. He looked like he had some poise. He is UCLA's all-time offensive player in our history in terms of yards.
They beat the Matt Canada Pittsburgh Steelers 13-10. I'm not thinking DTR is him. I'm sorry. He's not him. Good for him. He won a game. Congratulations. That's a big deal. Winning a game in the NFL, I'm not going to take anything away from you, but he's not him.
Hey, but he might not need to be. That is a really, really tough defense. They have good special teams. They have enough weapons on offense that they only need to keep it's like the Steelers this year. Keep the game close, keep it within a possession, let him take it and drive down the field if he needs to, or have that defense make a big play and stop the other team from doing the same. So I actually see that game was another kind of awful game. I watched the whole thing. Even the fam was like, guys, can we watch a different game? But they're very two similar teams. They're going to ground and pound it. They can keep their defense keeps them in the games with big plays and big turnovers. And so as long as you have a game manager who doesn't turn the ball over and who can make a couple downfield passes, you have yourself the opportunity. And don't forget DTR's legs, something Kenny Pickett doesn't have.
Yeah, well,
small hands.
Kenny Pickett has small hands, and now that he can't do the fake slide, he has no legs. But few other things to go to. Next one, though, the Lions. You're talking about your Steelers. My Lions made a big comeback at the end. I sadly couldn't watch. I was in the passenger seat driving home from hanging out with some friends. So I was literally just on my phone, like refreshing as every play went through on those final two drives.
It was wild. I also didn't get a chance to see it because I don't have the access to some of the streams that I normally have, at least not quite yet. So I had to watch what the cable was giving us. But man, because we had a lot in the Survivor League in which I'm still alive in, about half the teams left had the Lions. And so I was hoping that, honestly, I was hoping for a loss. And so when I saw the Lions won that game, I immediately had to go YouTube and figure out what just happened. And those highlights were insane. And also, the Bears.
Yeah, it's one of those games, it is the Bears, I acknowledge, but I want to give Jared Goff some credit. He had a bad game. But
like, 3 interceptions in like the first half, right?
Yeah, but I think 3 touchdowns all in the 2-minute drill. And that's what's needed. Like, a sign of a really good team is your ability to win games when you're down, when you're out, when you shouldn't win, when everything's not going your way. That's what they did. So, like, it makes me hopeful as a Lions fan. If we're going to play that bad, that we can still find a way to pull it off. I get it's the Bears, but it's still encouraging. Speaking of the NFC North, though, we also had the Pastronaut losing his first game with the Vikings.
I mean, he was bound to return to orbit at some point, and he almost won that game, right? That game was a close game. Unfortunately, he couldn't put together on that final drive, but he had him in that game all along. He played well. He looked good. It wasn't like it was a bad performance from Josh Dobbs. It just turns out that the Broncos might be good.
I think they are. Like, again, like when we looked at this team last year, we kind of said very good defense, offense struggled. This year we came in, offense was much improved, but the defense was struggling mightily, which kind of didn't make sense. And now we're back to more similar a defense that we had last year. And this is what we said very early in this podcast. If they had last year's defense with this year's offense, this is a legit team, and that looks like what we're getting now. In which case, it is a legit team.
And their offense wasn't even clicking on all cylinders in that game. They could not get the run game going. That's why they struggled for most of the game. And it wasn't really until a bit of that kind of old school Russell magic that pulled it out of the hat for them. So I would not count out the Broncos. Of course, I have the under on the Broncos, but I wouldn't count them out looking forward. I also had the Vikings win, and so fuck the Broncos. And gambling's awful, but we'll get there. We'll get to best bets in a little bit. But that was an exciting primetime game. Finally, it's no more like Raiders, Jets, or whatever we'd be getting in the past. And that leads us to our Monday night game, which was also fire.
2 straight unreal games, absolutely. Eagles moving to 9-1, taking the win, and Travis Kelce saved from being the scapegoat, but should probably still be the scapegoat in my opinion. Like the Marcus Valdez-Scantling drop is now what's being scapegoated for sure, and I get that he did drop it, but that was a tough catch. Let's not forget, the Chiefs were up, and they had the ball inside the 10-yard line, and Travis Kelce fumbled it. And that was what led to the drive where the Eagles took the lead in that game.
And there was also like an uncharacteristically sloppy Mahomes interception in the end zone where he looked real casual, and just threw it right at the Eagles safety there. I believe it was their safety.
Yeah.
And so that was also kind of like and I love Mahomes. He's a good guy. I love that he didn't like call out Marquez Valdez Scantling for the drop. Because at the end of the day, that is a hard catch. I mean, we
Oh,
can
it's
all
not
sit
an easy
here and
catch.
couch, dude, full speed. You just got that separation, full extension, diving like that's over the shoulder. Like, come on, that's a very obviously these guys are so supremely talented. We get used to that, but I don't think that's a
Yeah.
fair scapegoat at all. Unfortunately, it's the play we all remember. Um,
Yeah,
so,
and
but
that's
yeah,
kind
but
of
what an
why I put it
exciting
on.
game.
That's kind of why I put it on Kelsey, because his was like, when you fumble, that's a lot easier to fix than catching that
Yeah,
ball.
yeah. So
But yeah,
speaking of which, in that game, did you see the play where Jalen Carter dove underneath the center and almost picked off the ball?
dude. Well, you sent it to me earlier, and I hadn't seen it before that, but that play was fucking wild. That's an
Yeah, so for
ingenious
those of you that haven't
strategy.
seen it or might not have missed it, I don't even think they talked about it on the broadcast, but we'll go
No.
ahead and tweet about it. So go ahead and check out our Fourth and Goal 101 Twitter or X or whatever it is now. But we will post that after at some point in the next day or two. It's wild. So apparently he watched like a high school game or a college game where some defensive lineman dove underneath the center and tried to catch the spike. So when you watch this, I'm not exactly sure what down it was or what time in the game, but it's definitely on that last drive, and he like times it perfectly. Right at the snap, he dives, big old dude diving underneath the center's legs, gets his hands on the spike, and the ball bounces off his hands and comes back up. Like he almost picked that. I think that would have been one of the craziest interceptions maybe ever. And
Oh,
also, I think
absolutely.
now people might be watching out for that. That was a hell of a play.
Yeah, that's a play. I wish it had occurred, but every team is going to have that in their mind now, for sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
more than anything, I wish that had been a pick because that would have just been like it would have flabbergasted everybody. So definitely come check out our Twitter so you guys can check out that play. But let's go ahead and turn our eyes onto week 12. A lot of toss-up matchups. We got Thanksgiving days, like we mentioned before. We have a Friday 3 p.m. game. Talk to me.
Yeah, so we got 3 Thanksgiving games, 3 Thursday games. By the way, come to the Fourth and Goal 101 Twitch stream if you want to watch those. We're doing a full stream of all of those. It should be fun. But I don't know if any of those games are extremely competitive. Lions should be able to take the Packers. Cowboys should be able to take the football team. And the 49ers should be able to take the Seahawks. That's probably the best game on the Thursday nighter.
Yeah, that's definitely the best of the three. I would think that those first two are going to be pretty academic. Again, it's just fun to watch the Lions and the Cowboys on Turkey Day. This
Yeah, oh
year,
yeah.
I have to break my tradition, which I always bet for the Lions to lose and the Cowboys to win on Thanksgiving. It's just how it plays out all the time. My buddy actually did some research into it. Turns out it's about 50-50. So
Yeah.
that bet's in my heart the Lions lose and the Cowboys win on Turkey Day, right? So, but this
Yeah.
year I'm definitely not taking the Lions. In fact, as we'll get to later, I might have wagered on the Detroit Lions. But
But
anyways, I actually think that Seattle 49ers game is going to be a lot closer. I looked at the Seattle plus pretty hard and might actually end up with some money on that.
yeah.
Geno Smith's injury, which I'm not sure we mentioned earlier, was another one of those like he was questionable. I think he returned in the fourth. He returned in the fourth quarter,
Yeah, I think
but
still
he's
questionable for this game, and
yeah,
he could be Drew
exactly. So
Lock.
depending on how that shakes up, it will change a little bit of that game's dynamics. Hopefully, again, we get to see him out there. Who's on the Friday game again?
The Friday is the Dolphins at Jets, and the
Oh, okay, so
Tim
no one's gonna
Boyle
watch
led
that
Jets.
anyways.
No, I might, but that'll be about it.
Well,
Um,
I mean, we'll watch it, right? But you know what I mean.
yeah, but the one thing to talk about that I think is wild this week is how many literal toss-up matches there are. I don't think I've seen this before. So looking at the games as of right now, though, these lines may move as the week goes on. I acknowledge, but we have 4 games where both teams have negative odds in terms of payout. You have the
Like
Steelers
literal
Bengals.
toss-up in Vegas's wet dream of a lineup, right?
Oh
Because they're
yeah,
winning on either direction right here.
yeah, and so it's Steelers at Bengals, Jaguars at Texans, Saints at Falcons, Rams at Cardinals.
And there's even a couple other games out there that could be pretty close too. This is a tough week for anyone still left in Survivor for sure, because you've powered through all the gimmies, like the Dolphins, right, are probably not left on your agenda. I know I'm looking tough at maybe the Vikings this week as mine, if Josh Jobs can do it. But yeah, so hopefully we have some good games. I actually thought this last week's slate of games were a bit hit or miss, right? There were so many like duds, but then there was the prime time matchups that were a lot of fun, right?
And you see, I think this was a great slate of games because you had the Lions game, which was exciting at the end. So you had some at the prime main slots, but the prime time, whenever the prime times are great games, that's what really matters to making a good week, in my opinion. And so when you have a Monday nighter and a Sunday nighter that weren't just both entertaining but phenomenal games start to finish.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a win of a week.
I think I was just adjusting to this not having red zone and the ability to jump between the games that are hot and exciting. So I was stuck with like Buccaneers, Niners, Bills, Jets, and I watched the Steelers Browns, but it was not what I would call a tremendous football game by any means.
Yeah, and you also know the one thing I'd like to point out. Now we are betting against the Vegas on this one, but we both picked the Giants to beat the Patriots, and that tells you a lot about how low we think of the Patriots, because I do not like or trust Tommy DeVito. Like I bet on the Washington football team. I lost my Survivor last week because I trusted so much in how bad the Giants are. I still think they're that bad. I just think that the Patriots are worse, and it's in New York.
Look, I'm all in on not on all the underdogs, but I picked the Panthers this week too. If you guys got the picks up there, I think they actually have a shot to take down the Titans. I know Will Levis has been looking good, but he has not been winning football games, and so I think that's a reasonable one that the Panthers could win. But back to Tommy DeVito, I'm a believer. Like I said, he will be. He lives in his mom's house. What's not to like about the guy? He threw more touchdown passes than Kenny Pickett. I think he could take the New England Patriots. I wasn't tempted enough to take them for the Survivor League I'm left in, but it should be a fun little matchup. We're pretty aligned this week again, just like last week. But as you can see, I somehow lost more games than you. I am falling. I have not hit triple digits in wins. I don't know what it is. It's been a rocky year for me so far.
Yeah, your picks aren't bad. You're still, beating 500, but we're both a little behind Vegas. I'll bring Vegas up here for a second.
The problem is I've been trying to get a little frisky with my underdog picks, and I've just been missing. I've been missing them, right? So and so that's been a big. And then a couple of the favorites
had the Vikings pulled it out on Sunday Night Football, I would have been tied with Vegas because I went with them as the dogs. That was the difference. I would be tied with Vegas, but instead I'm 2 games behind. You've had
a hell of a year, and I think that brings us actually now to best bets with Bookie Bob, where we could continue to give Drew a couple more compliments here, because not only did he make it to week 11 in his Survivor, but he is up $192.55 on the year. Another round of applause for our boy Drew. I'm down $47.59.
Yeah, I mean,
I took a couple bad breaks this week, having money on the Bengals when Burrow went down, having money on the Vikings, which was pretty close. I should have taken probably the spread there, but I got a little excited about the Pasternaut. And then, honestly, I kind of miscalculated on the Jalen Hurts throwing some bombs, although he got close with that Devonta Smith. Was almost a touchdown there. So that bet could have cashed out too. I should have really just stuck with the Mahomes over there. But we have a couple of bets this week as well. Mine's pretty straightforward. $20, Lions to cover the spread against the Packers at home on Thanksgiving Day. I figured that'd make you proud, buddy.
It does. I like that. And I just went with a basic parlay. Nothing crazy. I bet money line Thanksgiving Day parlay. I just put Lions, 49ers, and Cowboys all to win. $10 on that. It pays plus 101, so basically 50-50. It was just a fun bet. I wanted to get in on the Thanksgiving festivities there. But what we wanted... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, it's always fun to have a little money on Thanksgiving. We looked at some of the player props that weren't quite as fun. As usual, pay attention to our Twitter account because there will probably be a couple more bets coming out. I did wager on the Monday night game and lost, but I will place that bet. I don't think we posted that one quite yet. We were both a little bit busy on Monday, so we will get back to that. But yeah, I think the Lions can do it. You guys beat them by 14 on the road. You guys are home. Let's go. But yeah, we want to look at, I think now, our preseason bets.
Yes, we want to look at our preseason bets. We're just shy of 2/3 of the way through the season, so we're at the point in time where you start to really be able to see through the looking glass of how your preseason bets are working out. So Rob, let's start with you. I'm going to read these off and let me know how you think about your bets. So Super Bowl champion, the Cincinnati Bengals.
Jake Browning, baby.
To the moon.
To the moon. Yeah, no, not winning that one.
No, MVP in the same line, Joe Burrow. Oh, that one's literally dead.
Said, right? We've covered that enough.
Yeah. Okay, this one's not too bad. Defensive Player of the Year, TJ Watt.
I think this is pretty much a lock. He's leading the league in sacks right now. There's fine. There's a couple.
The odds have him at third. The odds have Myles Garrett first, Micah Parsons second, TJ Watt third. But they're all have pretty solid odds.
Yeah, no, I know. Of course, I'm gonna be a homer on this. The media hates TJ Watt for some reason, even though he's gonna lead the league in sacks and is just the absolute force on our team. But yes, Myles Garrett, I believe, might take that from him. Those guys are both. I think Watt's 29 and Garrett's 28, so they're entering their primes. They have been fun to watch. They were both menaces on the field together last week or 2 days ago. So it's been exciting to watch them both play football this season.
I think what it's going to come down to, and I understand that this shouldn't be how it comes down, but it will be. It's going to be which one of the Browns and the Steelers make the playoffs. I think you got to make the playoffs, and it's really on these not great quarterbacks, DTR and Kenny Pickett. And if both of them miss the playoffs, I think it goes to Micah Parsons. And that's how it's going to be decided. Yeah. It's a little dumb. I don't agree with that, but that is what's going to factor in.
Yeah, I agree. But there's a good chance we both make the playoffs. So, Especially now that we can maybe beat up on the Bengals and get a couple of free wins there.
Fair. We'll have to see what the Bengals look like with Jake Browning in a week and a half of practice. But moving on, Coach of the Year.
Against the Steelers, no less.
Against the Steelers. Coach of the Year, Doug Peterson.
I know the odds don't favor him, but that Jags team is playing well. The only thing is that Trevor Lawrence sometimes doesn't show up. But the defense has been vicious. One of the few games they lost was the Texans early in the year. We're finding out the Texans are actually pretty good. I think he's turned around that team, especially compared to where they were 2 years ago under Urban Meyer. Again, I don't know why Vegas doesn't have more love for him, but it looks like I won't win that, even though he's had a hell of a season over there in Jacksonville.
Plus 2,500 right now to win, so they're not giving much love over there.
Which I don't get. Normally teams that are that good, the head coaches are automatically a bit more considered. So
the narrative's not there. Had Trevor Lawrence taken that step, I think there'd be a chance. But you don't. Right. Coach of the Year, at the end of the day, it's not the best coach. It's the best narrative, and Doug Peterson doesn't have that.
Right. And we'll get to your pick, which has a good narrative, right?
Exactly. Rookie of the Year, Anthony Richardson. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Just like Joe Burrow. I mean, come on. That's pretty unlucky to have both of my picks have season-ending injuries by week 12. One of them by, I think it was week 3 or 4, right?
Yeah,
so
early.
All right, sorry, Tony. Come on back next year. We'll be rooting for you.
Now, some slightly better ones. Season over wins, Commanders over 6.5. That's going to be a squeaky one.
Like I said this when I picked it on the podcast, I said they were going to get 7 wins. We are kind of right on track for that. So it's looking a little sketchy. I need to look at some of the games down the stretch. They have a tough schedule in the next few games. So
they had a chance. Had they won against the Giants, they'd have been looking pretty good. But 4-7 right now. They got to go 3-3 down the stretch after trading their bookend defensive ends at the deadline. It's going to be tough.
I know. That's the thing. They gutted that defense. So, again, and that leads us to my under choice.
Which is the Denver Broncos, which early in the season was looking like a slam dunk, but you have them under. Is it 8.5 wins? We have it on the screen.
Yeah, 8.5 wins.
9.5.
I know, and I remember thinking I would have preferred 9.5, but again, it was looking hot, and then the Chiefs and the Bills and sneaking against the Vikings, and so those have really just all three of those wins are not what I needed for this team for that bet to hit.
They're 5-5, so it could go either way. Like they have a winning and losing record down the stretch, but that's not where you want to be on these stretches.
I know, buddy.
And then your final one, this one, I remember you texting me after week 1 saying this was a slam dunk. It's your prop bet of choice. Tony Pollard just scored 10 plus TDs.
Dude, he had 2 touchdowns week 1. He only got his next touchdown last week. So he went on a 10-week dry spell. So yes, I was very confident in that heading into the season, more confident after week 1, very much less so. And the worst part is the Cowboys are putting up points. They put up fucking 40 points a game, and I still can't get Pollard touchdowns. That bet kills me. I have no idea why it's not hitting, because it should be hitting. And of all of the ones on this list, that's the one I think that's going to get me the most if it doesn't hit, because it's just like you got, it's like the opposite of Christian McCaffrey. It's like this is a high-scoring offense, and every time they get in the end zone, they somehow find a way not to give it to Tony Pollard when they get in. So, looks like I should have gone CeeDee Lamb or something.
Yeah, maybe.
All right. So this reconfirms the fact that this has not been my year in gambling, and it doesn't look like that's going to shape up anytime soon, at least with the preseason picks. But let's go over to the betting god this year. That is yourself with the Super Bowl champion 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, I still like that pick. They're obviously third in the NFC. They had a little bit of that rough patch there, but before that patch and since, they've looked like one of, if not the best teams in the league. When Deebo Samuel's in there, looked great. I'm losing Hufanga hurts, but I still think this is a solid bet. I'm still quite happy with where this is.
And that's a good time to lose a couple games into the bye week, right? Yeah. And so, you'll recover. And next up, we have your MVP, Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts right now is the front runner for MVP, especially it was kind of between him and Mahomes, and it was going to be who won that Monday Nighter, and it was Hurts.
But I still think that there's a chance for maybe a Jared Goff sneaky in there.
I did, out of my own money, bet $10 on Goff to win MVP. I don't think he will, personally, but I did post that bet at one point. No. Jalen Hurts I like. I really think this award at this point in the season should go to Christian McCaffrey. I truly do.
Yeah. But running backs don't win this anymore.
But it's a quarterback's award, and so it's going
to... I mean, it could almost go to, CeeDee Lamb, who's having just a phenomenal...
This is a year where you have skill position players who are having phenomenal years and no quarterback showing up, but it seems like it's not swaying voters. We've gotten so far deep into this is a quarterback award that even though this is the type of year that it shouldn't be going to a quarterback, it still looks like it's gonna.
Who was the last non-quarterback to win? Was it Adrian Peterson?
Adrian Peterson, yep. When
he went over 2,000, right?
Yeah.
Thought so. All right, next up for you, Depoy, Nicky Bosa.
Yeah, that one's probably not working out. I mean, it's not dead because he's playing, but he would have to go on an absolute tear down the stretch. Don't know if that's happening.
Yeah,
it's fine. Yeah. You win some, you lose some.
Yeah. Wow. Imagine you missed a pick because your next pick is Coach of the Year, Dan Campbell.
Yeah, another front runner. This was a bit of a homer pick by me for sure. I mean, the narrative is there. I just like Dan Campbell a lot. He was a betting favorite, and if the Lions did well because of how liked he is, because of his personality, you knew if the Lions did well, he'd be one of, if not the top picks, no matter what. I believed in the team. They're doing well. He's far and away the front runner.
And that was a good pick heading into the year too, right? It was, so that's kind of been chalk, so to speak. Yep. Now we're over to your rookie of the year, Jahmyr Gibbs.
See, I don't think this one is going to hit, and it's also not because it's a bad bet. He has the second best odds to win this award. but it's still plus 2,000 because of how far ahead CJ Stroud is. Like, literally, the only way that CJ Stroud doesn't win this award is if all of a sudden he turns into Bryce Young or if he gets injured and Jahmyr Gibbs keeps going.
Bryce Young just got sniped.
Yeah, that was a tough shot on Bryce Young. I'm sorry.
He's just catching strays out here, as he should, for being so much worse than CJ Stroud, yet so much more well compensated for that number 1 overall, right?
But yeah, so
all right, and now we're heading into.
All told, sorry, I think the pick was good. Yeah. The logic was there. It's just I didn't see CJ Stroud doing this.
Right, and if he hadn't turned it on, I would say probably first couple games of the season, nobody was putting him in this running, and then obviously having turned up the volume a little bit.
Yeah.
But now let's head over to your season wins, overs, and unders. You have Cowboys over 9.5 wins.
Yep. I mean, I think
that's
that looks.
That's almost hit already.
It hasn't like hit yet, but like this was such an easy over under to me. I was shocked it was this low. Like this was a smash for me. It's looking pretty good.
Yeah. I got a little frisky with the Commanders there. All right, and then you're under, and you were pretty confident in this one, but the Browns under 9.5 wins.
It's not dead. They need to go 2-5 down the stretch, but their quarterback play has not been there. I think it's their defense has really shown me something. Like they've been so much better than we could have imagined, but DTR, I don't think it's him, and that I don't think the bet is dead because of that. But obviously, even with PJ Walker, they were still winning games, so it's probably not hitting.
You know what? But they're very non-Brownish right now. They're not making dumb plays. They they don't have a quarterback, which is very Brownish. But it looks like a good football team over there in Cleveland. Yeah. And not just a fluke. So that one I'm less confident in. And let's go to your last bet here, prop bet of choice, Derrick Henry over 1,150.5 rushing yards. And we should mention that you put most of your money on this bet.
I think I put 20 or $30.
30. I think it was $30 if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And we had $100 just for those of you that know. We should have probably put the bets in next to this in terms of how much we wagered. But
I was confident. I was very confident in this bet. And it's not in bad shape. I think if he keeps up what he's doing, he's going to be right around there. And he has a very, very good schedule for running backs moving forward. So I think there's still a decent chance.
He's at 663.
Yeah, I think his average right now is about 66 yards per game. He needs to average down to the stretch about 70 yards per game. But he's got games against teams like the Panthers. He's got a really good running back schedule. So,
and he just needs, and defenses were down later in the year. He really just needs a game where he pops off for like 160, 170, and that should cover any subpar performances from there.
I'm worried about this. I thought it would be a slam dunk by now. It's not been. He has not been the same running back we've seen in past years. He's not used like he's been in the past number of years. I still have a level of confidence in this bet because I think all Derrick Henry needs, as you said, is that one big game. The risk is you got to bank in a week or two of injuries. He hasn't had that yet, and he's still behind pace. And I said at the start of the season, this was a bet on injury, and it might not be, and that's what scares me. But it's still not looking bad.
Trust me, he's on my fantasy team. The dude's not making it.
Fair enough. But that's it. A little bit of a longer episode today as we wanted to go through those weekly or the season-long bets. We'll get back to them at the end of the season again to let you know how we ended up doing on that and compare it to our total returns on investment. But either way, that's it for this podcast. Please come and watch us next week for another episode where we talk about all the same stuff. Go and follow us on all social medias. That is TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all at 4th and Goal 1-1, as well as Twitch, where we'll be doing a live stream Thursday for all the football games, as well as Sunday night and Monday night for those primetime games. You won't want to miss it.
See you there, folks.